We're proud to announce
Chance Forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolionow.org.
Welcome everyone to, I always scream, welcome everyone to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We're glad to have you today. We have a great meeting in store, and we know you'll be glad you included Rotary in your plans for today and in your plans for the week. To start our meeting, past President Bob Sade will provide the invocation, and then we will not turn and do the pledge like we've been doing. We'll wait for Bob Reed to lead us in a song, and I want you guys to really, guys and gals, to really belt it out. I've been missing all that. And then Bob will lead us in the pledge, followed by the visitor introductions. Past President Bob Sade.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, the gift of Rotary is evident in this room. Friends all about us with special gifts to share. We ask for you to be with each and every one of us as we move about our daily lives, always keeping in mind the special talents we have. We ask your guidance to open our hearts and minds so that we may be fair and kind to those in our paths today. Let us focus on the objects of Rotary and implement these with your help. Amen.
Please join me in singing our favorite song, God Bless America. God And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We would like to welcome everybody to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, where it is now only 38 days until kickoff. We have a lot of visitors today, so I'm only going to read the important ones. If when I call your name, if you will stand briefly with your host, we will look at you, and then you can sit down and we will applaud all together at the end. Becky Fields has with her 3 guests: John Slaughterback, a friend from Grand Lake, Rhonda McDaniel with Operation Aware, and Jerry Dolan with Operation Aware. Barney James has his parole officer, Tim James. It's really his son. Blaine Sawyer is a guest of Karen Keith. He is a student as well. John Remington is a co-worker of Karen's. Dan Peace is a co-worker with Michael Willis. Tony Oliva has brought his lovely bride, Christian. And Jerry Bates has brought his wife and daughter, Amy and Caroline. Let's give all our visitors a round of applause. Visiting Rotarians. We will start with the closest one. From Southside, Kyle Wilkes. Also from Southside, Ben Gorell. All the way from Muskogee, we have Darrell L. Ward. And all the way from Granada, Nicaragua, we have Elizabeth Dahl and Jamie Belden. Thank you all for being here, and please come back.
Thank you, past President Ed. Let's do a phones out, take notes segment again for those of you who haven't been here in a few weeks or our guests. What we mean by that is we've been encouraging our members, instead of pretending like we don't have our phones out. We're just going to get them out and be obvious about it, and we're going to put things on our calendar. And so I like to highlight some upcoming programs through this part of our program. So today, don't forget that next week our speaker will be Rick Muncrief, who's the CEO of WPX Energy. It's not common for any body of people to be privileged to hear the CEO of a publicly traded company speak, so please take advantage of that opportunity, bring lots of friends and guests. On August 12th, our speaker will be Jennifer Lauren, who is a well-known television, business, and investigative news reporter. She's expanded her sites to include anchoring, writing, and producing a new program called OCO, Voices of the Cherokee People. She's excited to tell us about her Emmy Award-winning skills and this new television adventure. I said venture, so plan to be there for that and bring guests. And then on August 19th, an entertaining fella, to say the least, our former Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma, Mike Turpin, who is a well-known political commentator on the Flashpoint shows. I think now it's called Flashpoint with Turpin and Humphreys. He's the one who famously said in the United States Supreme Court about the other side's argument, "That dog don't hunt." And long-term, please note a date change. We had originally stated that Dr. Deborah Gist, our superintendent of Tulsa Public Schools, would be here on October 21st, but the date's been moved to October the 28th. So change that one on your calendars, and please plan to be here for that special guest. There's no more timely speaker than Dr. Gist. Mark your calendars now and plan to be there and bring lots of guests. A reminder of our committee meetings today. The Above and Beyond Committee is gearing up, and they're meeting in room 234. The Budget Committee is meeting in the Beacon Room. The Club Foundation trustees are meeting in room 233, and the Partners in Education Committee, Celia Clinton Elementary, is meeting in room 232. Please plan to attend your committee meetings. Okay, we don't have a Who Was That entry, but to keep everybody motivated and excited, we thought we would review our entries so far. Sorry, Marty, you gotta see it again. Remember, by the way, to let Alicia or me know if you have an entry. So there we have Tim Caldwell and Rob Reiner. There's a little resemblance there. Yeah, I think in personality as well as physical appearance. We have Marty and Kathy Griffin. It may just be the red hair. That just may be it, Marty, I don't know. Not the personality. This is my favorite, Alicia Herrera and Jody Arias. Why is there a moan? It's just a little humor. We couldn't find anybody else who looked like Alicia, and I had to get her. And I don't know who that guy is. I heard somebody say that's the best one. I don't think so. Okay, next slide. And we have Ron Butler and the most interesting man in the world. You know, we had ulterior motives for this one because we're going to be able to play great clips from him all through the year of his little pieces of advice for us. So, Ron, you're going to be hearing this a lot. Any more? I can't remember. That's it? Okay. Well, anyway, turn in your entries. It's a lot of fun. I think Ben Wyndham has the winning entry so far with Ron and the Dos Equis man. So please turn in your entries. A few announcements. On behalf of the club, I want to express our condolences to the family of Charles Seacrest on the passing of the father of our member, Rotarian Charles Seacrest Sr. The services were last week. There are cards on your tables for extending your sympathies to the Seacrest family. I must also inform you of the passing of Rotarian George Cheatham on July 20th. George had been a member of our club since 1990 and had been made a special lifetime member previously. Private services were conducted in Fort Scott, Kansas this past Monday. Cards are on your tables for extending your sympathies to the Cheatham family. News reached us this week that Martin Keating is recovering in the hospital following heart surgery, and he hopes to be home soon. In typical Martin fashion, he kind of downplayed it, but I think anytime somebody tinkers with your heart, that's a little serious. We placed cards on your tables for expressing your well wishes to one of our favorite former Sergeant-at-Arms, Martin Keating. I also want to encourage you to support the Adopt a Class drive that was started last week by Terry Heritage's announcement. Your gift, no matter how large or small, will help us to help the teachers at Celia Clinton Elementary stock the supplies for their rooms, and our goal is to have a $200 gift for every teacher. So for every classroom, a $200 gift from the Rotary Club of Tulsa. And we do this every year, and we hope you'll contribute this year. Now, as Casey King makes his way to the front, we have some important club business. I want to say thank you to Casey and the Budget Committee for all their hard work and dedication to the task at hand. It's no fun to slice and dice all of the numbers, and Casey's and his Budget Committee did a wonderful job with that. And now your Budget Committee Chair, Casey King.
Thank you, President Jeff. It's been an honor and a privilege to be this year's budget chair. We've had outstanding committee members, and I'll introduce you to them in a minute. On your tables are copies of the budget. They'll be on the tables today and also next week, and next week we would make the vote to approve the budget. I'd like to recognize my committee at this time. They've done an outstanding job of delving into the budget, making some tough choices, looking at the club operation and seeing where changes need to be made. We've met almost every Wednesday for the past 2 months after the club meeting, and it's been some long days. So if you would please stand when I call your name. Paul Baumann, Eric Ortega, Doug Padgett, Judge David Peterson, Sandy Siegfried, Bill Vogel, Duff Weddle, and Chuck Wilson. Also have a special thank you. I also have a special thank you to President Jeff, to Dale Dreyer with Long Range Planning, and Donna Mercer. They have been instrumental in getting us the information that we needed and making hard determinations as to where we can be fiscally responsible as possible. If anybody has questions about the budget, please feel free to contact me or any of the committee members, and we'll answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Again, Casey, we want to thank you and your committee for hard work. Some people say to me, I really don't know what's going on with the club. Why don't we talk more about it? And I say, join the Budget Committee next year, and you'll learn everything you need to know about what's happening with the club. Okay, we are privileged to have some project announcements talking about what we do as the Rotary Club of Tulsa around the community. And Jeff, if you'll make your way up. Jeffrey Rudd and Brooke Estevez are here. And we want to encourage you to register now for a couple of events, and Jeff's going to tell us more about it.
Thanks, President Jeff. Good afternoon, and as your new social chair, we have our first event. I would like to invite you to join me for an evening of wine and art at Gilcrease Art Museum. That will be Thursday, August 27th. The tickets will be $10, and you can register on DACDB, and we'll be in the lobby during the month of August. In addition, this year, we're working very closely with the Rotaract Club of Tulsa to co-host all of our social events. And at this time, I'm pleased to introduce Brooke Estevez as the new chair, or as the new president.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Well, I'm really excited to announce that we have 25 tickets to see the Oklahoma City Thunder play the Dallas Mavericks on October the 13th. Tickets are $25, and I think you can register through the DAC-DB. Hope to see you there.
So we'll have some reminders of these events in our phones out, take notes segments going forward, but we wanted to have a little introduction of those events today. Now, Hannibal, if you and your guests would like to make your way up to the microphone, we have a community project presentation.
On behalf of the Club Foundation, it's my privilege to present this check in the amount of $7,000 to Jenny Dolan, who's the Executive Director of Operation Aware. Your check.
I just want to take a second to thank you all so much for this presentation and for this check. We're using these funds to be able to get word out about the need for prevention with our young people and to continue our classes in the classroom. We're going to show you a quick PSA, which will start running, and we'll be working with another organization who's partnering to help us facilitate getting more of these out into our community.
There are times that I think I can do anything.
Moments I feel like
I'm totally invincible. The decisions I make are really not that big of a deal.
I'm only 14. I mean, what could go wrong?
It was only one time. Plus, he said he was fine.
I thought I was okay to drive.
Operation Aware, helping our youth make positive choices.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Hannibal and Jenny. You may or may not know, especially those of you in the back, that there's an empty table in front. So you never know when there's going to be a big wad of cash in an envelope taped under the chairs in the front table. I'm not going to tell you when, but I promise it will happen. So that's some positive reinforcement to encourage those of you who are a little hesitant because you think I spit or something to sit in the front of the room. I'm sorry, I'm off track here. You may have noticed that our Sergeant at Arms, Alicia Herrera, is not here today, but she is in spirit, and she also is by way of a video that I understand is entertaining. So if you'll run the video, that would be great. I don't have a setup for this video. I don't even know what it is. Something about a beach and her children.
Hey, President Jeff. Hey, fellow Rotarians. Sorry I can't be there today. I know it probably seems like I'm on vacation. That's definitely not the case. There's a lot of Rotary work going on here in California. A little bit of trivia for you. Paul Harris's great-grandmother is actually from right here in Orange County. And another little nugget of information, those Rotary pins you're wearing were actually manufactured right here in Los Angeles. So anyway, we've been talking about the four-way test a lot. London, share with them the four-way test.
Is it on the rocks? Is there salt on the rim? Is there lime?
Wait. That's something different. Anyway, Ava, tell them about the Rotary stuff we've been doing this week.
We've been building sandcastles and playing in the water.
Okay, for Rotary, we did some water Rotary stuff. Who knew that the Greater Los Angeles Rotary Club actually meets right here? Right here. Actually, see, they're getting ready now, so I gotta go. You guys have a great day.
I wonder how many takes that took. I don't know. That was actually really good. All right, it's my honor today to introduce our Rotarian of the Day, Becky Fields. Becky is Vice President at Mabry Bank. She is a relatively new member to the club, but we've thrown her in the deep end, and she's already been very involved in a lot of committees, and she will be chairing our Camp Enterprise Committee this year. She transferred to our club, as I said, very recently in September of 2014. She is a Paul Harris Fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, our Rotarian of the Day, Becky Fields.
Our guest speaker today is Mike Brennan, a global pearl producer and my new best friend. He's actually given me a little piece of pearl jewelry to wear today since I was lacking that, and I don't know if it's today or for the rest of the year. We haven't exactly worked out the trade-off yet, but I'll let you know later. As founder and CEO of International Pearl Group, he represents the industry by speaking about the world's oldest gems, pearls, at over 100 events per year nationwide. His companies are based out of Hong Kong and have operations globally. Mike currently lives in Dallas, but is actually a Tulsan for most of his life and still has a home and office here. He is a trustee for a charitable foundation that his father founded, and it has benefited over 300 local charities. You might not have known much about the pearl industry today before you got here, but Mike promises to unlock this very secretive and closed industry for us today. If you woke up this morning wondering what a pearl farmer looked like, well, now you know. Please help me welcome Mike Brennan.
Okay, happy to be here. Let's see how this technology works. Oh, look at that. Okay, so you may or may not love the world's oldest gem, which happens to be the pearl, but hopefully by the time you get out of your chairs today, you'll appreciate what we go through to bring that gem to the world a little more than you thought you would. Now, I won't be your professor of pearls today, and we won't talk about all the science of how we do what we do. This will be more of a 10,000-foot view of our gem. Now, I guess you might call me an entrepreneur, right? Early on in my life, I fancied myself as an entrepreneur. In fact, one of your fellow Rotarians and I were in business for a while, Scott Petty. We all love Scott. But over the last 3 decades, I've really focused mostly on the pearl industry. Now, if you want to know what I looked like 33 years ago, the guy on the left would be me. So my wife looks at me somewhere around the midsection and tells me I'm getting happier, so I'll go along with that. What we do as global pearl producers, and we supply pearls to luxury retailers all over the world, is we go through a grueling process of getting the pearls out of the oysters, obviously, and we're going to look at that, but also designs. We never know which designs are going to go and which ones aren't going to go. We used to hire market research companies, pay them a lot of money, and they were half right and half wrong. So about 9 years ago, we started this little program where at yacht clubs like San Diego Yacht Club, Naples Sailing and Yacht Club, Tampa Yacht Club, and country clubs all over the country, private clubs, and some social clubs and town clubs like Beverly Hills Women's Club and places like that. We started doing these pearl events for the ladies' luncheons. About 50,000 women attend those events each year, and I speak to a good number of them. But what we do is after the lunch is over, they get to go into a different ballroom and look at new designs that haven't been seen by the buyers and the executives in the jewelry industry. We went from being half right and half wrong. Now, because of that, and because of 50,000 women that aren't wrong, we're 97% right on new designs. So we became the best designers on the planet, and that's our little secret that we'll keep among ourselves. Now, I never know what's going to happen at those events. This table of ladies, they were sitting right up front. I couldn't miss them. The entire time I was speaking, this one was hugging this one. She was kissing that one. She was going around to pinch her cheeks. I'm looking in the wine glass, and I'm thinking, it's great stuff. But I found out at the end that the lady in the middle, that lady right there in the middle, that was the mother, and these were all her daughters. So, okay. So after the presentation, Mom comes up to me, and she says, Mike, I'm sorry we were a distraction, but we haven't been at the same table at the same time in about 6 years. So I said, hey, I loved every minute of it. And I realized then that groups of people don't need an excuse to get together. You do that often here. But the fact that the Pearl has opened the door for us to participate in some of those events has really been nice for us, too. So let's get started with our program. Throughout history, people have been looking for the world's oldest gem, and the divers have changed and the technology has changed, but they're there. If you look at Kokichi Mikimoto, he is the godfather of the cultured pearl. In fact, he patented the cultured pearl. We'll take a look at what a cultured pearl is in a minute. But this guy, he ate 2 pearls every day. All right, I'm not saying try that at home, but at 90 years, he was still out working the young people at the pearl farms. We have a lot to thank Mr. Mikimoto. He gave us our start in business in Japan over 30 years ago. His company did. Now, Chanel. Coco Chanel was a lady that did more for our gem than anybody before or since her time. And in fact, Mikimoto was going bankrupt because people didn't understand what a cultured pearl was. So thanks to Chanel swooping in and saying, you know what, let's save this thing. She did, and the industry never looked back. And of course, Time magazine recognized her for that. And of course, later, Chanel decided, you know, let's take it to the next level. She took the pearl dust, which is a byproduct from pearl production, mixed it with a resin, and created the faux pearl, which is a good name for a fake pearl. When she introduced the fake pearl, she wore her fake pearls with her real pearls for about 3 months, and nobody noticed. So she thought, these are pretty good. She was at a dinner right before Fashion Week, enjoying her dinner. A young reporter comes up to her and taps her on the shoulder and said, "Miss Chanel, could I have an interview?" And she was very French and very polite, and she said, "Sure." So they said she turned her chair just about 3 inches his direction. And she said, "Okay, but let's make it quick. I'm having dinner with my friends." He said, "Well, the first question I have, those pearls that you're wearing, are they all real?" She looked at him and thought for a minute. And she said, "Well, young man, do you like them?" He said, "Yes, they're beautiful." Then she said, "Then shut up." And she turned her chair back towards her friends. Well, they hadn't introduced the faux pearl line yet. The next day, she did introduce the line. So Chanel is quite the character. Now, diving for the hidden gems, the treasure's not always seen. It's really that way in life, too. The things that aren't obvious and the things you have to work a little harder for. Well, that's the way it is here. But this is in Japan, off Mikimoto Island, where we got our start. Today, these girls, they have nice little white uniforms. If you went below surface with them, see how graceful they are? But there's a couple of differences. Their great ancestors could hold their breath for an incredibly long amount of time. Their great ancestors didn't have clothes on, but there weren't tourists everywhere. So now we have these sleek little white outfits, but here's another little secret we'll let out. That little tool that you see that's tethered to the diving platform to pry the oyster off the bottom, that also doubles as an oxygen line. So those girls are down there. You don't have to watch your clock wondering, are they going to be okay? They're just fine. It's almost like Disney World. Pearls are the gems that define class and style. It's been that way for about 2,000 years. We don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but I really love this photo. This is an actress. Her name is Uma Thurman. Before she made it big in Hollywood, she was one of our pearl models. We're very proud of her, but we can't afford her rates anymore. Pearls are the oldest gems recorded in history. If you go back into ancient Chinese writings, pearls were the first gems ever written about. Long before there was technology to cut the other gemstones, the diamonds, the precious stones, and the non-precious stones, there were pearls. Now, back in the old days, pearls were known as the gem of queens or the queen of gems, mostly because you could not possess that gem unless the queen or the king said it was okay. Well, we're glad that changed. Everyone can enjoy the gem now. Pearls have always been valuable. This is the Cartier building in New York. Beautiful piece of real estate. You may not know this. That building was paid for in about 1911 with $100 in cash and a double strand of Cartier pearls. So pearls can be valuable. Interestingly enough, the last appraisal we saw on that Manhattan real estate versus the value of that exquisite double strand of Cartier pearls, still pretty even. So nobody got the better of the other. Now, this isn't political. I know you don't like politics here. There are 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans up here. Now, the point is, in our White House, pearls are no stranger. Every first lady has either been painted or portrayed, photographed in their pearls. And as a pearl producer, we really like that. That's great. Now, a couple of the first ladies here had the finest collection of pearls from all over the world. Jackie Kennedy, Barbara Bush, but their go-to strand, and the media fixated on it, was those giant, what we called the Flintstone pearls, those big synthetic pearls. I think that's fine too. We don't produce that in our world, but that's fine. Now, one of the first ladies moved back to Texas, and we've had the opportunity to get together. And so let's see here. That's my wife, Irma, and President Bush and Laura. And President Bush says, "Mike, friends call me W." So there's W. But Laura looks really interesting here because she has a beautiful collection of pearls, and she wasn't wearing any pearls. I caught up with Irma and Laura 15 minutes later in a different room. Now look at Laura. Doesn't she look great? That Laura Bush is one smart lady, and she looks happier in those pearls, I think. Pearls are natural gems that don't require cutting, faceting, or polishing. That makes the pearl unique in the world of gems. How we harvest that pearl is how we bring that pearl to the market. Now, let's talk about real quickly how a pearl is made. The oyster. Now, we're going to call it an oyster. It could be a mussel or a mollusk in fresh water. But the oyster is like the filters of the seas and the rivers and the streams, and they float around, move around the bottom by the tides and the currents, and they sweep their area clean. because they're hungry. Now, when they take in nutrition and something that's not nutritious gets stuck inside that oyster, maybe a sharp piece of seashell or a sharp grain of sand or a living organism, in order to survive, the oyster has to secrete a membrane on that irritant. And we in the pearl industry call that the pearl sac. And then layer after layer after layer of this wonderful substance called nacre or nacre, N-A-C-R-E, builds over that, and that's how nature makes a pearl. The fact is, though, the pearls inside the oysters only occur in 1 out of 10,000 oysters, naturally. In other words, the oysters are really good at getting rid of the harmful things, right? We could take some lessons there too, right? What's the difference between a natural pearl, like you see here on the right, the diver's diving for an oyster tethered to one of our platforms in Tahiti. We hope that's one of the 10,000 oysters that has a pearl in it. And 100 yards away, all of those oysters that are suspended in the South Seas there, that's a cultured pearl, or better known as a farmed pearl. Same thing. The oysters still do their thing, but the difference between a natural diver pearl and a cultured or farm pearl is us, the pearl producers. We are involved like the conductor of the orchestra in every little step of that process. So we are really particular about that. Now, harvesting pearls is a lot of work. I probably look tired there. We harvest in our collection of companies about 10 million metric tons of pearls a year. So if you get an eye on 10 million tons of pearls, that would fill this room up many times over. If you look at planet Earth, our pearls and our operations are represented here on this global map. We're as far away as Tahiti, French Polynesia, around the coast of Australia. We have beautiful product coming all throughout Asia, both freshwater and saltwater, both diver pearls and farm pearls. Now, over here on this side of the world, the Sea of Cortez in Mexico has been very good to us. We have a couple of operations there. And that little heart off the southeast coast of the United States reminds me to remind you of the Mississippi River. The organic material, the enzymes that we use to nucleate the oysters in 90% of the world all comes from the Mississippi River. Interesting fact. Now, this is a picture of a freshwater cultured pearl farm. Below those buoys will be a ladder, a net, a cage, a net, apparatus, or something containing the oysters. We have to contain the oysters because if we don't, the tides and currents will sweep them away. Now, in the old days, you would see the white styrofoam buoys. Those have all been replaced by the new green high-tech plastic buoys, which we'll take a look at in a minute. Now, this is one of our 13 facilities where we actually make the beautiful jewelry for the Tiffany's and Cartiers and Chanel's and Neiman Marcus of the world. And there's about 50,000 women coming to these private club events. But before we can take a look at that, let's go through a couple of the highlights of pearl farming here. Here I pulled the cable out of the water so you could see how the oysters reside just below the surface. Now, this is January in Japan. The water's really cold. As pearl producers, remember I said we're the conductor of the orchestra? We discovered that when you keep the oysters in the warmer waters, that they produce more pearls over a longer period of time. So here, we hoist them up to the surface water because it's January. Now, as spring, summer, and fall warm the water, we let them go back to their natural habitat on the bottom, and a happy, healthy pearl out of a happy, healthy oyster is what we're after. Oh, by the way, the new high-tech green plastic buoys, as you see here, these are also known as commonly as recycled 2-liter 7-Up bottles, okay? So very high-tech operation. Now, the oysters have to stay in the water. They can't be out of the water for more than about 60 seconds, or they're not going to live a long, healthy life. So once everything hits the bench, it happens very, very quickly. We literally have 60 seconds to get the pearls out of the oyster and then reseed them with the enzyme irritants to start the process all over again. Now, if a minute goes by and either I'm slow that day or the oyster's slow, we have nutrient-rich bottles of water at each station where we can buy ourselves a little more time. Now, a happy, healthy oyster like you see here that comes from freshwater or the brackish waters where the freshwater, saltwater mix, that oyster will produce 12 to 15 pearls per year, every single year. Now, talk about the ultimate green gem. We get 12 to 15 pearls per year, every single year, for over 100 years. So the oysters do their job as long as we do our job and take care of them. Another little secret, why is it that a saltwater pearl is so much more expensive than the freshwater cousin? It's not the quality of the gem. You can have every shape, every size, every grade. It's the scarcity of the gem. In saltwater, you don't get a dozen pearls per oyster per year every single year for 100 years. You get one pearl on average out of one oyster, and that relationship is over. It's terminated. So it's the scarcity of that gem that drives the value of that gem. Now, the nucleation of a cultured pearl happens very quickly. You know, how do you relax that oyster enough to get the job done? Well, everybody knows candlelight and Kenny G music doesn't work. But what we do is we reflex the oyster just enough that we can put a spring-loaded clip inside the oyster, and with surgical-like instruments, we relax the muscle inside the oyster, and you know what happens? It will release the gems that it's ready to give us. We don't dig the little gems out of there. We let the oysters decide. That little 2-millimeter pearl that's been in there for a year and a half, I would rather that the oyster keep that and make it 5, 10 years, an 8 or 10 millimeter pearl, it becomes more valuable. So we let the oyster decide. But once the oyster gives us the pearls, then we sort the pearls by shape, by size, by grade, and by color. So it takes thousands of us to do this job. It's very labor intensive. Drilling the pearls, you could drill one single pearl at a time. There's no technology to do more. And anytime you drill anything, you're going to get a byproduct. If you drill a piece of wood, you get sawdust, right? When you drill the pearl, you get pearl dust. So we put all that aside. And if you don't drill the center of the pearl, it will fracture, no matter what the shape of the pearl is. So what we do is we pulverize those fractured pearls into pearl dust. It's like a baby powder. It's very fine talcum-like powder. We purify it, sterilize it, and the number one use for that product today is still cosmetics. Shiseido's pearlescence, the foundation, the eyeshadow, the lip gloss, that's real purified pearl dust mixed in with the product. Manicures and pedicures are good. Maybe, ladies, next time pick one of the pearly colors. That's real purified pearl dust mixed in with that product. It's been proven that there's 24 elements, scientifically proven, that are good for your skin and good for your nails. So it's a beautiful product, and it's also a healthy product. Have you heard of Majorca pearls? You know Majorca, Spain? So if you have those, you're lucky. Neiman's charges a lot for those. But that's not a cultured or farm pearl. It's not a diver pearl. That's a high-quality man-made pearl, like we talked about with Chanel earlier, and they take the pearl dust, mix it with a resin, and coat the bead layer after layer to create that product. Now, once we get the pearls drilled, we string the pearls on traditional strands. You know why there's a knot between each pearl? It keeps the pearls from touching each other. It adds strength to the strand. And if the strand broke, only one pearl falls on the floor. In today's market, you're probably going to pay $3 or $4 an inch for a stringing job. It's microfibers of silk. So you'll know if your pearls need to be restrung, ladies, if you can actually slide the pearl back and forth on the strand and see the knots. That means your silk is stretched. Take them to your favorite local jeweler and get them restrung. A little suggestion, though, is count the pearls on the strand, write that on your claim check, and when you pick them up, count them again. Not that the jeweler would do anything dishonest, but what if I'm working on your strand and somebody rushes through the shop, bumps the table, and your pearls scatter around the shop? If I don't get them all back on your strand, by the time you pick them up, they're not going to be as valuable. And also, if they're missing pearls, they're going to be shorter than they were when you dropped them off. So that's a good suggestion. I'll talk about the grading quality. The Gemology Institute of America grades the pearls on the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The A grades, the AA grades, and the AAA grades are all that we take into our factories to finish into jewelry. We let all the other pearls go into the pearl markets. The reason is, if you look under a microscope, the A-grade nacre is very dense and smooth and heavy. As you go down the gem scale, the nacre becomes more porous, And it's the pores of the surface of the pearl that let the elements into the pearl that break it down and make it chalky, milky, dull, or yellow over time. I used to feel bad about the C grade pearls and the D grades. I'd go over to those bins of pearls and have a little pep talk and say, you know, you're going to find a good home. Some lady's going to love you, but she's not going to get you at Tiffany and Company. She's going to get you at TJ Maxx. So, you know, that's how we do that. Natural colors, let's talk about the colors in the world of pearls. You have the white category, which is most common, the pink category, and of course there's a spectrum of color in each category. The pink ones are my personal favorites. When you're harvesting at the pearl farms, we harvest in 22-pound bushels, okay? It's about 10 kilos, so it's not so hard on your back lifting pearls all day. When you look into that bushel of pearls, which is about 5,000 pearls on average, if you're lucky, nature will give you one natural pink pearl out of that whole bushel. One pink pearl. So I love the pink ones. I've been trying for 25 years to get the oysters to do it differently. I have not been successful. The reason you see pink pearls out in the world is most of the time the white ones, which are common, they get dipped and dyed and treated and radiated to make them pink and other colors, so there's enough colors to go around. So you have the white category, the pink category. Then you have the black pearls. The black pearls are rare too. Do you know why people refer to black pearls as Tahitian pearls? Because the natural origin for an oyster, actually a black lip oyster in an ocean to produce a black pearl, is in Tahiti. Any other black pearl that comes from any other source could be a cultured pearl, you know, a farm pearl of that. The rarest of all the color categories, right here in the middle, is the South Sea golden pearl. The South Sea golden pearls only occur naturally in 1 out of 1 million oysters. So if you have golden pearls or champagne pearls, these things over the last 10 or 15 years have become more and more scarce. In fact, the last strand that we sent over to Cartier, retail sold the exact same day in New York City that they received it for $1 million for one strand of pearls. So those are valuable. Now, when it comes to classic style, why change? Audrey Hepburn was a great pearl lover, and you know, she said when you found your style, stick with it. We're lucky to be in the pearl business because it never changes. Pearls are always appropriate. There's Jacqueline Kennedy and John, and she wore pearls almost every day, both formally and casually, and we like that. I prefer pearls on screen and private life. Grace Kelly was another great pearl lover. Most people don't know. It was reported that this iconic photo would have been different had it not been for Miss Kelly's idea to shorten that strand and make it a choker. She said it's still a classic, but it's sassy now. So that photo was released, and pearl farmers, pearl producers, guys like me, they hated Miss Kelly because it took half as many pearls to make chokers as it did full necklaces. So I'm happy to report today that the Chanel rope that she made popular takes about 165 pearls. That's our most popular item. Here, this young lady's wearing a couple of Chanel ropes. She's 17 years of age. She's dressed very casually, and that's fine for pearls. I will make a note on the world of pearls. Tiffany and Company does a survey of all their age categories, and pearls are one of the jewelry categories at Tiffany. The granddaughters, the daughters, the mothers, and the grandmothers all love pearls at the highest level out of any other gem. The only gem that rivals that is the diamond, and of course that's fine with us. Now, out in the world, you'll see our pearls on many familiar faces, red carpet to the tennis court, formally and casually, and we're happy about that. Angelina did a little interview for Portraits and Pearls, and we were all excited in the industry about that. And the reporter had a question for her, and she said, so you must just love pearls. It's your favorite gem, right? And Angelina Jolie said, actually, it's not my favorite gem. She does like that Tahitian strand a lot. And the reporter said, oh, so are diamonds your favorite gem? She goes, no, my favorite gem is Brad. He's my favorite gem. So they're, and of course their kids later on after that. A new fashion trend, guys, there's the Chanel rope on Pharrell. You know that song, Happy? Well, he looks happy wearing that. So we threw that on him in an airport, and I've actually seen him wearing this necklace a dozen times since then. We always have questions about pearl care, so I'm going to bring that question up. Hairspray and perfume are alcohol-based products. That's the only thing that I would be careful of with your pearls. Give yourself a minute and let that product settle, and then put your pearls on, because if you keep spraying the pearl with that substance, over time, even with the A grades and the AA's and AAA grades, it will attack the surface of the pearl over time. So give yourself a minute. Anything else you like to do, your pearls love to do it too. You like to go swimming, pearls love to swim. There's Missy Franklin wearing our pearls, and she went out and won gold medals in her pearls. You remember the movie Tin Cup with Rene Russo and Kevin Costner? Pearls are great for golf. Ladies, pearls love formal occasions. They love dinner and a movie. They love going to church. They like coming to the Rotary Club. But wear your pearls out in the world. If you like tennis, pearls would love to play tennis. You want to take a bike ride? Pearls would love to take a bike ride. So don't just save your pearls for formal occasions. Use them, wear them. Now, my point to that is this. The more that you touch and interact with a pearl, you will put your body oil, doesn't mind your perspiration, that pearl necklace will take on a glow that only you can give it. So consider your pearls as an alternative for every day. How do you clean your pearls? Okay, we do this in giant quantities at the Pearl Farms. You can do it at home. Get a cereal bowl or a soup bowl, put some warm water in it, a few drops of ivory liquid. It's non-detergent, it's gentle. You can find it anywhere you buy dishwashing products. Suds it up. Give your pearls a bath, rinse them off, and see what you have. It may be discolored just because there was something on the surface that needed to be cleaned. It won't hurt the pearls. It won't hurt the silk. It'll clean the silk, in fact. So that's how you clean your pearls. Now, if you have pearls and diamonds, the ivory liquid works beautiful too, so rinse it off and see what you have. Sometimes pearls go off color in 10 to 15 years after harvest because they were harvested at the wrong time of the year. So you may have really great pearls, but they may go a champagne color or a yellowish color because they were harvested in the warm summer months. So guess what? That's why I'm here. It's summer. We don't do much in the summer. We let the oysters have a break, and we harvest year-round after that. And of course, Australia is the opposite calendar. Real or fake? This is always a question that we get. You know, touch that pearl on your tooth, feel that texture, rub the pearls together. You're actually feeling the microscopic pores of the pearl. But the reality is, if you take the blade of a paring knife or a scissor somewhere back around the clasp, give that last pearl one slight little scrape. That pearl dust see on his finger there, it's like a baby powder. It'll be on your finger. A synthetic pearl will not do that. Now, you will see the scratch if it's a fake pearl, but it's back around the clasp, so you don't have to look at it, okay? This is a question that always comes up. I was at an event in Naples, Florida. It was a big room. I was standing somewhere up here, and some little lady comes through the double doors. She was probably 80, 82 years old. She wasn't even 5 foot tall, but man, I could tell she had energy. And she looks at me across the room and goes, "Hey, are you the Pearl Man?" I said, "Yes, I'm the Pearl Man." She goes, "Well, I'm your Yiddish grandmother," and here she comes. And she says, "Hey, Pearl Man, are my pearls good? That's why I came to this event. I want to know if my pearls are good." Now, I'm starting to feel like the Antique Roadshow guy, right? And I look at her and I say, "They're great. You're wearing them, so you're enjoying them, so they're great." She goes, No, I know that." Now she's getting closer to me. She goes, "What I really want to know is if they're real. Because the fella that gave me these, I could swear he had a guilty look on his face." Now I'm really nervous because I'm thinking, I don't want to ruin this lady's day. Who is this guy she's talking about? And, you know, I have a little pressure. And then I thought, well, maybe they're not real, but maybe they're vintage faux Chanel pearls, of which those go across the auction block at Christie's for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Maybe I still have good news. So I asked her, I said, "Ma'am," as she's giving me the pearls, I said, "When did this fellow give you these?" Because I'm thinking, okay, when was the vintage Chanel? And she goes, "Well, let me see. I was 14, he was 15. Now I have no pressure at all. Who cares if they're real or not? So I grab the pearls and I look at them and I realize immediately I had something special in my hands. And they were Akoya pearls from Japan. They were flawless. They were beautiful. And I look on the back of the clasp and there's that M with the line and the circle, Mikimoto, right? I said, "Ma'am, these aren't just real pearls. These are Mikimoto pearls. These are in the top 1% of all the best pearls in the world. And you have something worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Congratulations. And you could just see the relief on her face. And she's like, oh, that's good to know. She goes, you know, after he gave them to me, I did kiss him. So anyway. So ladies, if you're wondering about your pearls, you can do the little scratch test. You don't have to go, 50 or 60 years like she did. Now, I have an announcement to make. I have a new granddaughter. Her name's Carly Christine. And Carly this is her 1 week photo, with the pearls, of course. She's a pearl lover. She loves the pearls. But my son, Taylor, he wanted me to remind everyone, every time I show off Carly's picture, that a small percentage of proceeds from our business will go to her college fund. So anyway, so there you go. Now this was her 1 week photo. Now she's almost 2 now. We took a photo before I left on this trip. Now look at the little pearl girl. Isn't she cute? She goes and it's called Her First Pearls from Tiffany. She puts those on herself every day. I've seen her in her little diaper with nothing on but the pearls in the diaper, and she looks great. So hopefully you appreciate the world's oldest gem a little more than you thought you would. We have every intention sometime next year of moving this part of our business to Tulsa. We do have an accounting office here. This little test market in all these country clubs and yacht clubs has become quite a large business. So hopefully I'll be seeing more of you then. And I think we're just about out of time, so I think I'll close with that. Thank you very much for your attention. Jeff said I could take questions. So are there any questions? I'll be happy to answer. Yes. Is there any way to bring back the luster of pearl? Great question. How do you bring back the luster of a dull pearl? This is a great question. There may be nothing you can do, but try this. After you give that strand the ivory bath and rinse it off, dry it in a polishing motion with cheesecloth. And that solution with the cheesecloth polish, I've seen pearls that have seen better days come back to life. So try that, okay? Any other questions? What about seed pearls? Seed pearls, that's the beginning of the nucleation process, so that you start with a little seed pearl and then it builds nacre year after year after year until it becomes a regular pearl. So that's a real pearl. Yes, and the way that we harvest seed pearls is if you're going to have a typhoon hitting an area in Asia, other than lose all those oysters and those pearls, we'll take those harvests, and then you'll have an abundance of seed pearls. Other producers may actually do it differently, but that's how we do it. Yes?
Does a certain oyster, consistently make better pearls than other oysters, or is it completely different?
It's a good question. So in our business, we're in 10 different countries, and we are focused in Asia and the South Seas mostly. And we do know that when we do our job right, the oysters tend to like that. They don't tell us they like it, but they're giving us better pearls over a longer period of time. I think the best pearls in the world are known mostly from the Akoya region in Japan, and also from the northern coast of Australia at the beginning of the South Seas. That's the better regions that produce more consistent pearls. But quite frankly, you could have oysters in a bathtub and do the job right, and you could get lucky. You could be at an oyster bar, and if you don't break your tooth, you could end up with a nice high-quality pearl. So it's very random, just like color and shape is very random. Yes? Yeah, so where do you buy pearls? That's a good question. Reputable jewelers, know what they're doing, and I think you have some good choices here. Online is tricky for a lot of things. In fact, the latest generation of fake pearls actually have that texture built into them, so when you're scratching them, you feel that texture. Now, when you do the scratch test, they don't pass that with the pearl powder. But yeah, I just say, the thing about getting what you pay for, that's probably not true in most cases, but at least you have a better shot dealing with a reputable jeweler that has a reliable source. Yes, sir? You know, we're based in Hong Kong, and most of the product that comes into Hong Kong, other than China, which, by the way, China's pearls have really increased in quality. There's a big hub from Hong Kong to Australia, and so you see every manner of pearls in Hong Kong, both real and fake, and from all over the world, because it's a hub that's duty-free, and especially when you're dealing with the cruise line industry, you don't take things in and out of duty, so that's why we've based our operations there. Yes? Yeah, good question. Freshwater pearls appearance versus brackish water versus saltwater. In the old days, you knew a freshwater pearl because it looked like a puka shell, remember? And it didn't have a lot of luster or beauty. But because of what we've done over the last 3 decades in the pearl farming industry, now visually, you can't tell the difference between a freshwater, a saltwater, or a brackish water. A gemologist has a scope, a light, to look into the center of the pearl, and they can tell when you're getting them appraised that way. Any other questions? Okay, so do we have a minute or 2 more, or are we out of time? Okay, so let's play a game since we have a minute. I need a coin. I need a quarter. Have you played heads or tails in this group before? Okay, we're going to play heads or tails, and I'm going to give a pearl necklace away to the winner. Okay, so I just need a coin. 1 coin. Anybody have a quarter I could borrow? I'll give it back. Okay. Okay, this is a 10-cup necklace, you know, that Rene Rousseau made popular in the movie. We're going to draw for it as a closing fun little game. Here's how you play heads or tails. Everybody stand up. Now, you have to be honest. You are Rotarians, right? So you have to either pick heads, touch your head, or tails, touch the hip. And we're going to eliminate this room very quickly. Pick one or the other, heads or tails. All right, make your choice, and you can't switch. And the first winners are the tails. Heads, sit down. Oh, you hate me now, don't you? Okay, so now that's more than half the room. Now you have to pick again, heads or tails. We're going to flip again. I don't see many heads. There's a couple of heads. All right. Winner, tails. Heads, sit down. Okay, this might be a tough room. All right, pick again. Here we go. Heads or tails? The winner, heads. Tails, sit down. Okay, who's left? All right, there's a few of you left. Pick again, heads or tails? Tails. Heads, sit down. Okay, here we go. Heads or tails? Whoops. I'll do it again. It's okay. Tails. Heads, sit down. Okay, raise your hands. How many are left? Okay, we have half a dozen. Okay, heads or tails? All right. Tails. Heads, sit down. Do we have anybody standing? Did they eliminate everybody? Who's standing? Okay, here's your pearls. Are there any more? There's one. There you go. Okay. You may want to re-gift your gift. I'm just saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That was great. Don't forget your meetings coming up that we announced at the beginning of the program today. Thank you to our volunteers who made the program possible and that do so every week. Mike, we have a book for our Adopt-a-School, Celia Clinton, called The Unwanteds, An Island of Shipwrecks, and that might be interesting for the kids to read. We'll see you next week. Go tell everyone about Rotary. We're adjourned.
These little snail, you know